Have you ever felt the weight of anger sitting heavy on your chest? The kind of anger that just keeps simmering no matter how hard you try to shake it off? It's like it owns you, consumes you, and for a moment it feels like it's the only thing you can feel. But here's the truth I need you to hear today. Anger is a choice, not a reaction. Anger isn't something that just happens to us. It's easy to think that anger is a response to the world around us, that it's something we can't control. We might tell ourselves, they made me angry. But here's the truth. Anger is not a reflex, it's a choice. When we get upset, the initial feeling we experience, whether it's frustration, hurt, disappointment, is real. Those emotions come from somewhere deep inside of us and they can feel overwhelming. But here's where we lose control. We decide what to do with that feeling. We decide how long we're going to let it live inside of us. We choose if we're going to let that emotion turn into something bigger, something destructive like anger, or if we're going to release it and move forward. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're driving down the road and someone cuts you off. Now the first thing that hits you is a sense of surprise, maybe even fear or confusion. But then you have a choice. You can let that moment of surprise spiral into a full-on reaction. Maybe you shout at the driver, maybe you tailgate them. Maybe you hold on to that frustration for the rest of your drive. In that moment, you've taken something small and let it snowball into anger. Or here's the alternative. You can recognize that what just happened was an external event, not something that has to control your emotions. The anger itself is not automatic, it's a reaction to your thoughts. Instead of allowing it to consume you, you can take a deep breath and choose to not let it ruin your day. You can acknowledge the moment, but not allow it to control your response. So let's break it down. What happens when we react with anger? We give away our peace. We hand over control of our emotions and let an external event, something that we have no control over, decide how we feel. It's a loss of power because we've allowed something outside of us to dictate our emotional state. But when we realize anger is a choice, we take back our power. We choose our peace. And listen, I know this isn't always easy. There are situations in life that feel like they deserve anger. Someone wrongs you, betrays your trust, or hurts you. Those feelings are valid. But anger doesn't serve us in the long run. It keeps us stuck. It keeps us focused on the injustice, the hurt, the person who hurt us. Anger ties us to the past, and the longer we hold on to it, the more we allow it to shape our future. The beauty is that we have the ability to decide how we respond. We don't have to let those feelings fester and build into something toxic. When we recognize that anger is a choice, we stop reacting and start responding, and there's a big difference. Responding means we take a moment to evaluate our options, to choose what's in our best interest, and to move forward with wisdom and clarity. In every situation where we feel anger creeping in, we are presented with an opportunity. We have the opportunity to decide how we will show up. Will we be driven by the heat of emotion, or will we take control of our response and choose a path that leads us to peace and growth? This is not to say we should suppress our emotions or pretend that anger doesn't exist. It's about understanding that we don't have to let anger control us. Instead of allowing it to be the default reaction, we can take a step back, reflect, and choose a different response. That choice is where our freedom lies. Think about this. You can't see clearly when your vision is clouded, right? It's the same with your life when anger takes over. Anger doesn't just make you feel bad in the moment. It has a way of blocking everything good that's trying to come your way. It clouds your judgment, distorts your perspective, and makes it almost impossible to see the blessings that are already in your life. Let's break it down. Blessings are opportunities. They are good relationships. They are moments of growth. They are everything that can help you become the best version of yourself. But when anger takes root, it's like putting a filter over your lens, a filter that distorts everything. You can't see the good around you. All you can see is what's wrong, what's unfair, and what's frustrating. That's the nature of anger. It narrows your focus. And when that happens, you miss out on the bigger picture. You've probably experienced this. Think about a time when you were angry, really angry. Did you notice how everything seemed to go wrong in that moment? Even the smallest things felt like they were part of some big conspiracy against you. That's because anger has this tendency to magnify the negative. The blessing you were waiting for, the good news you were hoping for, the opportunity that was right in front of you, they all get pushed to the background. When you're consumed with anger, you literally cannot see what's good. And here's something even more powerful. Anger doesn't just block your ability to see your blessings, it blocks your ability to receive them. You can be surrounded by opportunities, kindness, and love, but if you're focused on anger, you're not open to receiving them. Why? Because anger is a wall. It builds a barrier around your heart and mind. You become so consumed with the thing that's making you angry that you're not open to the good things that are waiting to enter your life. Let's say you're angry at someone, maybe even at a situation from the past. You hold on to that anger tightly because you feel justified. But in doing so, you close yourself off from the people who genuinely care about you. You might push away the person who wants to support you, or shut down an opportunity that could help you grow. Why? Because anger, in its most insidious form, keeps you stuck in a cycle. It feeds off your focus and makes it almost impossible to see beyond your current emotional state. And here's where it gets even more insidious. Anger also blocks your ability to recognize your own growth. When you're angry, you're often stuck replaying the past or replaying the wrong that was done to you. But blessings often come in the form of lessons, growth, or changes that require us to see things differently. If you're so focused on being right, on holding on to your anger, you'll miss the opportunities for growth that might be right in front of you. The lesson that could transform your life. The change that could open new doors. They are often hidden within the process of moving beyond anger. But if you're holding on to it, you can't see them. The other side of this is that anger is often tied to feelings of entitlement. When we're angry, we believe something was taken from us. Maybe we feel we were wronged. Maybe life hasn't turned out the way we expected. And we hold on to that feeling because it seems like the only way to justify our pain. But here's the truth. Holding on to anger often means we're holding on to the past. And when we're focused on what's behind us, we can't receive what's ahead of us. Anger doesn't just block what's around you. It blocks the good that's coming to you. When you're angry, you miss the moment you could be having right now. You miss the blessing of the present, the relationships that are waiting to be nurtured, the doors that are about to open, and the opportunities that are right there waiting for you to take action. But because you're holding on to anger, you can't even see them. And let's not forget that anger can also prevent you from seeing the blessings in others. You might be in a situation where someone has done something good for you, or there's someone trying to extend kindness. But because of the anger in your heart, you can't receive it. You might not even notice it. You might see someone offering help and think they're doing it out of pity. Or you might push them away because you're too consumed by your own anger to allow their kindness to touch you. The people around you who could be sources of blessing get blocked out because anger has put up a filter between you and them. And this is the kicker. The longer you hold on to anger, the longer it takes to open yourself up to the abundance that's rightfully yours. Anger is a thief. It steals your joy, it steals your peace, and it steals your ability to fully receive what is meant for you. You can't live in a state of anger and expect to walk in a season of abundance. It's like trying to fill a cup that's already full of something else. If you want to receive more, whether that's love, success, opportunity, or growth, you have to make room for it. And the only way to make room is to let go of the anger that's taking up space inside of you. Anger may seem justified in the moment. It might feel like the right response to pain or frustration. But I want you to recognize that holding on to it blocks your blessings. It keeps you from seeing what's right in front of you. And it prevents you from receiving the good things that are already on their way to you. We often think that healing is about fixing something broken, righting a wrong, or making things go back to the way they were. But real healing doesn't begin with trying to undo the past or control the future. It begins with one simple, yet incredibly powerful act: letting go. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or pretending something didn't hurt you. It doesn't mean excusing the wrongs done to you or erasing the pain you felt. Letting go means releasing the hold that those experiences, those wounds have over you. It means no longer allowing the hurt to control your heart, your thoughts, and your actions. When we let go, we create the space needed for healing to come in. Without it, that space remains occupied by resentment, bitterness, and all the emotions that keep us bound to the past. Think about this. You can't move forward if you're still holding on to what's behind you. It's like trying to run a race while holding on to a heavy anchor. You might be able to move, but the progress is slow, and the weight of the anchor makes it nearly impossible to reach the finish line. The same is true in life. When we hold on to anger, disappointment, or hurt, we carry that weight with us everywhere we go. We drag it into our present, and it begins to affect our relationships, our decisions, and even our vision of the future. Letting go is the release of that weight. It's the decision to stop dragging the anchor of the past behind us. And letting go doesn't always happen in an instant. It's a process. You might let go of one thing, only to realize that you're still holding on to something else. The act of healing is not a single moment, but a journey. And that journey begins with acknowledging that holding on is not helping you. It's not protecting you, and it's not fixing anything. All it's doing is keeping you tied to a version of yourself that no longer serves you. The reason letting go is so powerful is because it shifts the control back into your hands. When you hold on, you are giving control to the hurt, the person who wronged you, or the situation that disappointed you. It's as if you've given them the keys to your peace. But when you let go, you're taking those keys back. You're saying, this pain no longer has control over me. I choose to free myself. It's important to understand that letting go doesn't mean you don't care about what happened. It doesn't mean you stop valuing the lessons learned or the people who matter to you. It simply means that you are no longer going to be held hostage by the past. Letting go is not about erasing or diminishing the significance of what occurred. It's about refusing to let it dictate how you move forward. Consider the emotional weight you carry from holding on to past mistakes or unresolved conflicts. That weight can become a barrier to experiencing life fully, and not just the big moments, but the small everyday moments where joy, peace, and love can enter your life. When you let go of the things that have hurt you, you open yourself up to something greater. You open yourself up to healing. You give yourself permission to experience peace, even if the circumstances aren't perfect. Even if the hurt hasn't been fully understood or rectified. There's another side to this too. Letting go is empowering. It's the recognition that healing doesn't depend on anyone else. It depends on you. Yes, the world can hurt us. Yes, people can disappoint us. But the choice to heal is yours. The decision to stop allowing someone else's actions or words to dictate your emotional state is an act of strength. It's the act of taking control back over your life, over your heart, and over your future. Think about how much energy is wasted when we hold on to past hurt. We spend so much time replaying the past, reliving the emotions, running through scenarios of what ifs and why me. But none of that brings healing. In fact, it drains us. It keeps us tethered to something that no longer serves us. And it makes it hard to see the blessings and opportunities that are already present in our lives. Letting go is like hitting reset. It frees you up to fully experience the present moment and embrace the future with a heart that is open, unburdened, and ready for what's next. Healing begins when we stop clinging to what's gone, to what has already happened and cannot be changed. And we start embracing the possibility of what can still be. The future isn't shaped by the things that broke you, but by the things you choose to build with. Letting go clears the path for the new chapter, new relationships, and new opportunities to unfold. Without it, you remain trapped in the same chapter of your story, stuck in the pain of yesterday, unable to turn the page to the next. The heart of all this is one undeniable truth. Healing is not about what you can change in the past. It's about what you choose to do with your present. And you can choose to let go. You can choose to release the grip that anger, bitterness, or resentment has on you. The moment you let go is the moment you open the door to healing. and you give yourself the chance to move forward in a way that brings peace and restoration to every part of your life. We live in a world that is constantly moving, constantly changing, constantly pulling us in different directions. There's always something demanding our attention, whether it's work, relationships, societal pressures, or personal goals. It's easy to feel like we're constantly in reaction mode, like we're at the mercy of external forces. But here's a truth that we often overlook. Your peace is your responsibility. Most of us have grown up thinking that peace comes from external circumstances. We tell ourselves, if only this situation changes, I'll be at peace. Or we say, if this person would just treat me better, I could find peace. We place the power of our peace in the hands of others, in the hands of the world around us. But the truth is, peace is an inside job, and it's one that only you can do. Think about the last time you felt disturbed, stressed, or out of balance. Maybe you were dealing with a difficult person at work. Maybe there was an issue at home. Or maybe you were simply overwhelmed by the demands of life. The immediate response we often have is to try and change our circumstances. We think, if I could just fix this, if I could just get this situation under control, I'd feel at peace. But how often does that approach really work? More often than not, even when we change the external circumstances, we still don't feel at peace. Why? Because peace doesn't come from the situation. It comes from how we choose to respond to it. Peace is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of a mindset that chooses to remain grounded in the midst of them. This is where the responsibility comes in. You are responsible for your peace, not anyone else. It's not up to your spouse, your boss, your friends, or even the world at large to protect your peace. You are the guardian of your own soul. It's easy to blame external factors for how we feel, but the truth is that peace starts within. Now, I'm not suggesting that life won't bring its challenges, or that you should ignore the difficulties you face. Life is messy, and things won't always go as planned. But what you can control is your response. You can control how you react to the chaos. You can control how much space you allow the negativity of the world to take up in your heart and mind. It's empowering to realize that your peace doesn't depend on how well others treat you or how perfect your circumstances are. You get to decide how much emotional energy you invest in the drama around you. You have the power to set boundaries, to say a no when you need to, and to create a mental space where peace can thrive, even when the world feels chaotic. The mistake we often make is thinking that peace comes from having everything under control. We tell ourselves, if I just get everything in my life organized and perfect, I'll be at peace. But peace isn't about perfection. It's about accepting. It's about accepting that life is unpredictable, that people are imperfect, and that we can't always control what happens to us. But we can control how we respond. When you stop relying on perfect circumstances and start building your peace from the inside, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of constantly reacting to the world around you. There's a powerful shift that happens when we begin to take ownership of our peace. We stop blaming others. We stop waiting for someone else to fix our problems or make us feel better. Instead, we become proactive in maintaining our peace. This might mean taking time each day to check in with yourself. Taking a walk, meditating, journaling, or simply sitting in stillness to breathe. It might mean learning to say a no to things or people that drain your energy. It could be practicing mindfulness or letting go of expectations that cause frustration. And here's the beautiful part. When you take responsibility for your peace, you create an environment where peace can thrive in all areas of your life. You teach others how to treat you, how to respect your boundaries, and how to engage with you in a way that honors your sense of calm. When you protect your peace, you become a beacon of peace for others. People are drawn to you because they can sense that you are grounded, that you are emotionally stable, and that you are not easily rattled by the chaos of life. It's also important to recognize that peace doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean avoiding conflict or being a doormat. Sometimes protecting your peace means making tough decisions, speaking your truth, and standing up for what you believe in. True peace doesn't come from running away from challenges. It comes from facing them with strength, clarity, and confidence. When you make peace your responsibility, you are saying, I will handle whatever comes my way with grace and resilience. I will choose peace no matter the storm. At the end of the day, you are the one who has to live with the emotional consequences of every situation. If you allow other people or circumstances to dictate your emotional state, you'll always be at the mercy of the world. But if you take responsibility for your peace, you reclaim your power. You decide how much power those external things have over you. You decide how much energy you give to things that disturb your peace. And the more you do this, the stronger and more resilient you become. Anger is a powerful emotion. It surges through us, often with such intensity that it feels impossible to contain. In an instant, it can take control, making us act in ways we may later regret. Yet despite the damage it can cause, anger is not inherently bad. It is, in fact, a natural response to perceived injustice, hurt, or frustration. But there's a crucial aspect to understanding anger that often goes overlooked. Anger is a misguided energy. At its core, anger is a burst of energy, a visceral reaction that floods our system. This energy is real and potent, a force that can propel us to act, to react, or to resist. In many ways, anger is a signal. It's a messenger that tells us something is wrong, that we are feeling violated or disrespected. Anger often arises when we feel powerless, wronged, or misunderstood. It's a response that demands attention, a way for our emotions to alert us that something in our environment or experience needs to be addressed. But here's where the challenge lies. Anger itself is not the problem. It's how we channel that energy, what we do with it, that determines whether it becomes constructive or destructive. Anger, when left unchecked, can cause us to react in ways that harm ourselves and others. But when understood and directed appropriately, it can be a source of strength, motivation, and empowerment. The reason anger is so often misguided is because it's a reactive emotion. It doesn't offer clarity or insight, it simply demands action. The impulse to act can feel urgent, and often we find ourselves responding impulsively, without taking the time to evaluate whether our actions will lead us to a desired outcome. We might lash out, shut down, or seek revenge, all actions that serve only to perpetuate conflict rather than resolve it. Imagine the metaphor of a fire. Anger is like a flame, powerful and consuming, but capable of spreading quickly if left unchecked. If we allow anger to rage out of control, it will burn everything in its path, leaving destruction in its wake. But if we take that same flame and direct it carefully, say with the help of a controlled fire, such as a furnace or a fireplace, it can provide warmth, energy, and light. Anger, like fire, can be a source of great power when harnessed properly, but it must be handled with care. So how do we channel this energy in a way that leads to positive outcomes? The first step is recognizing that anger itself is not the enemy. The challenge is to recognize when we are angry, acknowledge the emotion, and then decide how to respond. Anger is often driven by a perceived need to defend ourselves, to protect our rights, or to stand up for our values. But just because we feel angry doesn't mean we have to act on that anger right away. It's important to ask ourselves, what is the source of my anger? Is it truly the situation at hand, or is it something deeper? A past wound, a feeling of unworthiness, or unresolved emotions from earlier experiences? Anger often arises as a response to something external, but the truth is that many of our angry reactions are tied to our inner world. Sometimes what angers us in the present is simply a trigger for unresolved pain or disappointment from the past. Take, for instance, a situation where someone cuts us off in traffic. On the surface, this seems like a simple irritation, but it may trigger something deeper inside us. Perhaps we're already feeling rushed, overwhelmed, or stressed. The person who cuts us off may not have done anything personal. They are just another driver in the flow of traffic. Yet our reaction is often disproportionate because the situation taps into something within us that's unresolved. This is where anger becomes misguided. Instead of addressing the root cause of our frustration, we direct all of our energy toward the person who cut us off, which only escalates the tension. Anger is an emotional response, but emotions themselves are neutral. It's what we do with those emotions that determines their impact. When we are angry, our immediate reaction is often to strike back, to defend ourselves, or to seek justice. But anger does not have the wisdom to guide us to the most effective solution. When we are ruled by anger, our decision-making becomes clouded, and our reactions become hasty and impulsive. It's as if we're blindfolded, and the only thing we can see is the injustice or harm that triggered our anger. In this state, our anger is acting as a misguided guide. It leads us to believe that we must retaliate, that we must express our frustration, and that we must force a resolution. But in doing so, we often overlook the bigger picture. We fail to see the long-term consequences of our actions, the impact on our relationship, and the potential to resolve the situation through calm and thoughtful action. Anger, left unchecked, becomes a reflex rather than a response. So, how can we redirect anger's energy into something more constructive? The first key is self-awareness. When we feel that surge of anger rising within us, we need to pause. Rather than immediately reacting, we must take a moment to reflect. What is this anger telling us? What is the underlying cause? Are we reacting to the situation at hand, or are we reacting to something deeper, something that needs to be addressed? By acknowledging our anger without acting on it impulsively, we can begin to shift its energy. We can transform anger from a reactive force into a source of empowerment. Instead of letting anger dictate our actions, we can choose to use that energy to fuel a positive change. Perhaps that means setting boundaries with someone who's been disrespecting us. Or maybe it means channeling our anger into an important cause, such as fighting for justice or advocating for those who have no voice. Anger, when properly channeled, can become a tool for positive action, not destruction. Moreover, anger can be a powerful motivator for self-reflection. It forces us to ask tough questions about our values, boundaries, and desires. Why do certain things anger us so intensely? What do we care about deeply, and why does that matter? In this way, anger can become a pathway to greater self-understanding, helping us clarify our priorities and uncover unresolved emotions that need healing. But even more than that, anger can teach us about empathy and understanding. When we feel anger, we are often quick to assume that the other person is at fault, that they are the ones in the wrong. But anger, when observed objectively, can open the door to greater compassion. It allows us to ask, why did this person act this way? What might be their perspective? What pain or frustration might they be carrying that caused them to behave this way? Instead of reacting with more anger, we can use this moment to engage in a deeper dialogue, to listen and to try to understand. This shift in perspective can transform anger into a force for connection rather than division. The key takeaway here is this: anger, like any energy, is only as useful as the way it is directed. It is neither inherently good nor bad, but it is powerful. When we learn to recognize it, understand its source, and choose how we respond, we can turn anger into a tool for positive change, self-reflection, and greater empathy. When we allow anger to drive us without direction, we risk letting it consume us, leading to regret and harm. But when we channel that energy mindfully, we unlock its potential to transform not only our circumstances, but ourselves. Forgiveness is one of those words that can feel elusive, something that seems easier said than done. We often hear it taught, spoken about, or preached from a place of idealism, as if forgiveness is a simple choice. Just let it go and everything will be fine. But in reality, forgiveness is a deeply emotional process that can challenge us at our core. It asks us to release something precious, the pain, the anger, and sometimes the need for justice or revenge. Yet in its purest form, forgiveness isn't just about letting someone off the hook for their wrongs. It's about freeing yourself. It's about breaking the chains that bind you to the past, to hurt, and to a version of yourself that is stuck in a cycle of resentment. At its essence, forgiveness is about the freedom to move on. It's about releasing the grip of pain that we often choose to hold on to, despite the emotional toll it takes. The truth is, when we choose not to forgive, we aren't holding the other person accountable. We are imprisoning ourselves. We are locking ourselves in a mental and emotional cage, allowing the past to have more control over us than it deserves. But forgiveness is the key that unlocks that cage, allowing us to walk out of it into a space where we can breathe freely again. Let's begin by understanding the weight of unforgiveness. Have you ever felt that lingering bitterness, that tightness in your chest when you think about someone who wronged you? It can feel like a heavy burden you carry everywhere you go. You might try to forget, but every now and then the memory resurfaces. Like a shadow, it follows you. The thing about unforgiveness is that it doesn't just affect our emotions, it affects our entire well-being. Unforgiveness is like carrying a backpack full of stones. At first, the weight may seem light, but over time, as you continue to carry it, it becomes unbearable. Physically, the effects of unforgiveness can manifest in many ways. Tension, headaches, sleeplessness, and even chronic health problems. Emotionally, it breeds anxiety, anger, and depression. Unforgiveness keeps us trapped in a cycle of negative emotions, where we are constantly reliving the hurt and injustice that was done to us. Mentally, it can cloud our thinking, making it hard to focus on anything other than the offense. We become so consumed with thoughts of retaliation, victimhood, or self-pity that it becomes difficult to find peace in any part of our lives. The deeper we hold on to the hurt, the more we unknowingly carry it with us, and the more it influences our decisions, our relationships, and our receptions. Unforgiveness doesn't simply stay in the past. It infiltrates our present and shapes our future. We become reactive, defensive, and distrustful, making it hard to form healthy connections or even trust ourselves in the process. When we think about forgiveness, one of the first things that often comes to mind is the belief that forgiving someone means excusing their behavior. But that's a misunderstanding. Forgiveness is not the same as condoning or forgetting. When we forgive, we are not saying that what was done to us was okay. Nor are we suggesting that the other person is free from consequence. Forgiveness is not an act of excusing the wrong, it is an act of releasing the power that the wrongdoing has over us. Think about it this way. When we hold on to unforgiveness, we are in some way still letting the other person have control over us. Every time we replay the hurt in our minds or stew over the injustice, we are giving the person who wronged us power over our peace, our thoughts, and our emotional state. Forgiveness is about reclaiming that power. It's about acknowledging the wrong that was done and choosing not to let it dictate the direction of our lives any longer. Forgiveness is a choice to let go, not for the other person's sake, but for our own. It's important to understand that forgiveness doesn't require the other person to ask for it. In fact, forgiveness often has nothing to do with the other person at all. It's about us. We don't forgive someone because they deserve it. We forgive because we deserve peace. Forgiveness is the pathway to our own freedom, not a gift to someone else who may never apologize or acknowledge their wrong. When you choose to forgive, you choose freedom. Forgiveness opens the door to release. It allows us to leave behind the emotional baggage that weighs us down, to stop carrying the hurt and resentment that prevent us from living fully. Every time you forgive, you lighten the load you've been carrying. You free yourself from the constant pull of anger, resentment, and hurt. You choose to step out of the prison of bitterness that has been keeping you captive. This kind of freedom doesn't mean that the past never happened. It doesn't mean that everything is suddenly okay or that justice has been served. What it does mean is that you are no longer defined by the hurt, the betrayal, or the injustice. Forgiveness is the act of reclaiming your peace and your ability to move forward. It's a declaration that the wrongs done to you will not have the final say in your life. Forgiveness allows you to open your heart again, to love, to trust, and to be vulnerable without fear of being hurt. Forgiveness releases the hold that bitterness and anger have on us, making room for healing and transformation. It doesn't erase the pain, but it allows us to view the past from a place of strength rather than victimhood. We stop letting the past have control over our present and future, and we start seeing ourselves as empowered to move forward with hope. One of the biggest obstacles to forgiveness is the desire for revenge. We believe that if someone has wronged us, they need to pay. We want justice, and sometimes that desire to see someone get what they deserve can consume us. But here's the thing. Revenge doesn't heal the hurt, it perpetuates it. When we seek revenge, we are choosing to stay tied to the pain, to the offense, to the cycle of hurt. Forgiveness doesn't mean we ignore justice, nor does it mean we stop standing up for ourselves. However, forgiveness frees us from the need to exact our own justice, to carry out our own form of retaliation. Letting go of revenge is part of the process of reclaiming our power. We no longer need to control the situation. We no longer need to make sure the other person suffers. Instead, we release them into the hands of a higher power, trusting that justice will come in its own time, whether through natural consequences or divine intervention. Forgiveness gives us the space to move forward without the weight of bitterness. We no longer waste energy plotting revenge or ruminating on what was done to us. Instead, we redirect that energy toward healing, growth, and rebuilding our own lives. We stop allowing the wrongdoer to control our emotions, and we stop letting their actions shape the course of our future. Forgiveness is not just about releasing someone else. It's about healing ourselves. The act of forgiving allows us to break free from the past to heal the wounds that have been festering inside. Often we think of forgiveness as something we do for others. But the truth is, forgiveness is the ultimate act of self-care. It's about acknowledging the hurt, feeling the pain, and choosing not to carry it any longer. In doing so, we allow ourselves to heal. We release the anger, the resentment, and the emotional scars that have been holding us back. Forgiveness creates space for emotional, mental, and spiritual healing. It opens the door for peace, for reconciliation, and for a life unburdened by the chains of past hurts. When we forgive, we also recognize that we are not perfect. We too have wronged others, whether intentionally or unintentionally. The act of forgiveness reminds us that everyone is capable of growth and change, and that none of us are beyond redemption. In forgiving others, we extend the grace and compassion that we too need in our own lives. Forgiveness is ultimately a process of letting go, of surrendering the past in order to embrace the present and future with freedom. It is the gateway to peace, to healing, and to living a life that is no longer dominated by the hurts of yesterday.